brownstone that glittered like stars do under moonlight. It must have been divine providence that white folks refused to live on these streets, believing they were haunted, therefore leaving the most beautiful houses to be claimed by the descendants of slaves from all across the Atlantic. White folks were not entirely wrong about the haunting either. If you were to walk down these streets, you might hear the faint sound of steel drum and boombox and chickadee and pigeon. Or you might hear the chattering of ghosts, the spirits of colonialists, Ashanti warriors, slaveholders, African griots, mythic creatures, and stories long since forgotten. But while white folks may call this a haunting, we know them to be the ancestors. After all, they only want to be able to walk through their homes like they did before their deaths, to sit in the kitchen drinking Milo, bestowing wisdom onto their children who are at risk of forgetting all about them. Now this family lived in the only rose-colored building at the end of Maple Street. The youngest called herself Zora, or she who will one day grow up to be a great writer like her namesake. She could be found conjuring her mother's words into stories, or if not, she could be caught face flush with embarrassment, fantasizing about a boy or two. And then there was Sasha, the eldest, who felt her story should shine brightest for once, commonly referred to as the black sheep, or she who nearly disappeared until she found her true self. This girl did have spunk. They say the girl had a chip on her shoulder the size of El Tecuche Mountain for nearly everyone, but particularly for her father who, legend had it, defeated a rolling calf with only a penknife and the power of his gaze. Even with the new baby on the way, the family still fought like wolves, cunning in their ability to wound each other. The man they called father moved out one day to live with a woman who didn't expect bread to be baked by stories. New daughters were birthed, several hearts were broken, and the maple trees were cut down and replaced with coffee shops. At this point, we all should have known what was coming. The scars that would form, the wounds that would never heal. It's true that Anansi stopped visiting the man's dreams at night. He couldn't tell his stories the way he used to. Images of Anansi, the rolling calf, and the purple balloon came and went in spurts. The wife, on the other hand, never stopped believing in magic. But I will never forget the day that I first arrived in the arms of the sisters. It was the day when my two girls got me as their Christmas present. I was sitting quietly between words, inside the blank spaces of the Anansi stories, waiting to be unwrapped. You see, the book I lived in had been given to them by their mother, who got it from her grandmother, who got it from an Ashanti priestess who was there when it got made. Rumor had it that all women who tried to read the Anansi stories aloud had their throats and tongues cut from their bodies like farm animals. The sisters had no idea the lengths that had been taken to keep these words alive. But every night, they would sit in the kitchen over Milo and go, "I am Nanny, leader of the Maroons, mother of all Jamaicans." The eldest, Sasha, wraps her hair in a pillowcase and holds up a shell, imagining it is in a bang. She speaks to her fellow countrymen. Please, if you can, imagine you are invited to watch these girls right now. Pretend that you are a part of the enactment. Pretend you can decide how this story will end. Hint, the setting is a kitchen. The scene's objective is to show two sisters conjuring history. Sister 2, also known as Zora, yes, your nanny, lady who caught bullets in her behind and farted them out at her enemies. Sister 1, also known as Sasha, disgraceful. You are banished from my maroon settlement. Zora, Sasha, I am Queen Nanny, the only African living in Jamaica who was never taken into bondage. Nanny forced the British troops to allow the Maroons to live in peace. This pot here represents the cauldron that burns without the use of fire. It lured the British into its waters. Sasha points to her mother's pot in the kitchen. The British troops try to climb up Blue Mountain, but they fall right before the peak, breaking their backs in two.